Alright, hello everyone, my name is Disc, and in this video we have a 25 Halls of Infusion, and for the week we are Fortified, Entangling, and Bolstering. So a little bit of news before we get into the video. I have finally released my week aura for my action bar HUD, thanks to a couple of my viewers getting this project started for me. But when it comes to your action bars, they can either help you or hurt you. And I think having a little bit of intention and design behind your action bars can really help guide your eyes to the best spells for the best moments. And I will say as a caveat to that, I think if you have the patience to recreate this with action bars, that is better. But if you just don't care that much and rather the ease of importing a weak aura, here it is. And then also I'm still available on Medify.gg. If you don't know about that website yet, it is geared all around coaching for online gamers. And I am one of their, I think they're only at the moment, verified discipline teachers. So if you get, a lot from these videos that I make, I think there's so much more to be had in booking one-on-one time where I can analyze exactly what I'm seeing in your play. And right now is probably the best time moving into 10.2 if you're thinking about starting discipline, to kind of work out some of the cobwebs early, even though we're about to have a lot of changes. I think now could be a good time to go ahead and set up your UI, talk about spell synergy and things like that. And also, if you're interested to support me and my channel in other ways, I have turned on the super thanks feature here in YouTube, so you don't even have to leave the app to give me a tip, and I would really appreciate that. And then just as a quick side note about, my personal life, I have not been making YouTube videos for the last couple of weeks, and it's for a couple of reasons. One, it's that we're moving into this patch, and two, if you don't know this about me, I'm a professional fire performer, and I was featured on Ellen a couple years back. I was on America's Got Talent last year. And I think it was like a month ago, I was approached to go back on television. So I'm a little bit older now, I'm 34, and to do these athletic type things take a lot out of me. I think I have what it takes, but I've kind of been unapologetically just training and spending my time where it needs to go. So I do apologize if anyone has been looking for my videos. I have been predisposed doing other things, but my audition is at the end of this month, and I can't exactly tell you what show it is just yet, but please stay tuned and please cross your fingers for me. I have a lot riding on this audition. I feel ready, but it's it's a horse I never thought I'd get back on. I retired, so we'll have to see how that goes. And then as always, let's quickly talk about talents for this key. So on the priest side, since we're still taking Rhapsody and Holy Nova, we really just have to sacrifice defensive points is the way it feels. But this is a single priest group, so we have to go straight down, take all 4 of these points right here. I also still personally play Vampiric Embrace. I think that is user's choice completely. I like it. It's easy in my rotation. It's easy for my keybinds. And then I always play down to the Bulwark. Crystalline Reflection pairs really well with my shield build on this side. But Bulwark acts kind of like our cheat death, for the lack of a better term. And in high keys, even in low keys, I think it is really nice to kind of bank this bottom tier point. And then for Discipline, this is a build I don't run too often. I think Halls of Infusion is the only time I run this build, to be honest. But I do take Bright Pupil. This is a point I usually don't spend. But for the third boss, the Frost Lady, even though she is not tyrannical, I don't like messing around here, so I take all the defensive points I can get. And an extra Radiance, although its utility isn't really designed for its upfront heal, sometimes that upfront heal is all you need. So I take this extra point here, and then I sacrifice my Malicious Intent, my Long Schism. I don't like doing that, but also being a fortified key, I think this has less value. And this was kind of my flex point. Instead of 2 of 2, it's just 1 of 2. And that's where I put my point over here. And then all the way down, I don't take TE. I think that is also user's choice. People say it's like a blanket increase. You know, if you take this point, you get more out of your spec. But I guess personally, I think there's more power in modulating my spells based on my experience and not having this like ask to bounce back and forth between Holy and Shadow. And for what it's worth, even without this point, I still parse 99% for HPS and DPS. So it's just, I don't think it's necessary. And it's just something I don't want to do. I've tried it a lot and I just don't want to do it. And that's that. So then the last thing before we start the key, let's quickly talk about what the healing and damage looked like. So for healing, I was right at 71,000 per second overall. And yeah, when it comes to HPS and a key, I don't really think that's a valuable metric to judge or even care about, but I was right at 71 overall. And then this is the spread. So this is pretty predictable. You'll see Atonement soaring on top. And being that I was running shield build here with the extended Rapture, that's why we see the Power Word Shield as second is getting a lot of value in this key. And something I like to do is kind of add up my Divine Aegis and Shield and see how much I absorbed overall. And if you add these up, it's right near 30 million damage, never even landed. And I think that is one of the best utilities a healer can bring is damage mitigation. So that is pretty cool. And then for the damage, this is where it's a little bit more fun and engaging. So overall, I pulled 55,000 per second, which is really good for a healer. And examining the spread, it's pretty common that you'll see a gap between your first two and then your chunk of shadow spells. So Purge the Wicked on top just goes to show how strong and important this is for us. So I kind of look at our dot as like a mini game in and of itself. And every dot we have out returns as HPS as well. So having all of your dots out is really, really important. And it's quite hard to do, but we have a lot of tools in our book to aid us. So we always want to penance a mob with a dot. And then, you know, we have this game of expiation where we dig it down and then we have to refresh. But it's the more uptime you can have with your dot, the better. And then Holy Nova, I think some of this is due to just spam. There's a lot of AoE here, but a lot of this is also just Rhapsody. And then you'll see a big gap before you hit the shadow spells, and that is exactly what you want. Then all of our shadow spells are grouped up. This is pretty much just the output of our Shadow Covenant. And we see Dark Reprimand on top. That is without a Long Schism. Mind Blast before Expiation, before Shadow or Death. And then we even have our star in there queued as a shadow spell. And then sometimes I also like to look at what my Crystalline Reflection returned. And if you look down there at the bottom, it was well over 2 million, which is excellent. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and clip over to the key. All right, we are about to get going here. And off the top, Paladin is my preferred PI target. Rogues are just not that great with it, and you don't want to hit the Evoker. And this is also a great run for a Ret Paladin because he freedoms the hell out of me with these Entanglings, and I pretty much get a free ride. So this is Fortified. We have to be very careful. We have our pre-potion out. I faded as late as I could, opening with all of my dots. And then I go straight into Rapture just to be safe. Rapture also pairs really well with PI, which is out on our Ret Paladin. I refreshed my first potion. And here's my first Shadow Covenant. And so you might notice something different here. Typically, I'll have the Defenders as a light gray color so that they stand out as cleavers. Gosh, this rogue is really eating it. But I changed them to a pink color, so I would rather all of my enemies be a version of red, and that's because when they hit execute range, they turn white. So a mob that goes from a light gray to a white, there wasn't much distinction there, if you ask me. So yeah, change them to pinkish. And that was a little bit rough. The rogue, something happened with his spells and he got cleaved the house down. But that was both of our pain sups. But we got through it. This isn't exactly a gauntlet, but it's kind of a gauntlet, especially on Fortified. It is pretty intense. And you really have to throw all of your spells at it. And a strategy I do quite a bit, so it's really important to keep party nameplates on so you cast your radiance on the correct person. It is a short range heal, and you have to radiance the person in the middle of your cluster. But a lot of times, if there's steps involved, like right here, what I will do is put myself on the precipice of the steps, so I have LOS of anyone downwind or upwind, and I'll radiance myself as the strategy. So I'm opening with all of my dots. I wall because I'm targeted. Wall means desperate prayer, if that's a new word for you. Here's our second PI. And we're in Shadow Covenant. And with these harsh discipline procs and refreshing your atonements, what I've been trying to do lately is, so like before I get my second Dark Reprimand proc, which is the latter half of Shadow Covenant, right before I cast that second proc, I refresh with a Radiance. So I try and delay that Radiance as much as possible. Hope that makes sense. If you just replay that one pull right there, you'll see what I meant if you're confused. Yeah, so I might not have said it, but also in this gauntlet, it's a full send. So pull 1, we want to drop our long cooldowns. So that was Barrier and Fiend. They went on cooldown, pull 1. And we just got Fiend back available. We should have one more play of him before boss. And with this Rapture, it might look like a waste, but if you think about it, so I'm spamming that shield for the full 15 seconds. Since I had played both of my pain sups, it served a purpose of helping me with that cooldown. Rapture is pretty much a spell you can dump whenever. I consider it a short cooldown, being a minute and a half. If you ever have it available and pain sups down, it's a fair play. Wall, barrier, ramping my harsh discipline. Here's a Shadow Fiend as well, and Shadow Covenant. Third PI on the Paladin. Yep. And I held my Radiance right until I was ready to cast my second Dark Reprimand. Everyone's totally covered. So going into this next pull, as always, the best thing I can do is set my Harsh Discipline to a 3, and it is. I was trying to LOS. So opening with all of my dots, Harsh Discipline is ready. Shadow Covenant leading with Mind Blast. Star, Dark Reprimand. Very important to place Death early in your Shadow Covenant, that way you get a second one. That doesn't happen too often, but I missed my second Dark Reprimand. It turned it back into a Penance. And I think it was because I had to move. I'm not too sure what happened there. I don't really do that often. I would say like 0.5% of the time I'll miss my second one due to, you know, like whatever. So also, if you're wondering about Rhapsody and Holy Nova at this point, I've moved its icon to the bottom of my HUD, and it's for the most part because I think it deserves a little bit less priority in high keys. It's more of like a luxury type spell where I'll dump it when I have it, and I think the better you can get with dumping it, you know, the better it is. But in this first little gauntlet area, HPS is most important, and Rhapsody does not yield that much HPS. So I played it when I can, I'm not too worried about it. And here we have Static Surge as the only thing I'm tracking with Bigwigs. And for the first one, we want Shadow Covenant. Here's our PI. Rhapsody is really great on this boss when everyone is stacked. We kind of get to double dip. So yeah, the best Rhapsody... Oh, he was frontaled. The best Rhapsody and the best Star happen when everyone's atoned and stacked. Okay, so for the second Static Surge, this is a Rapture. And notice with my Grid 2, I am replenishing depleted shields as they come. Covered one attack, and then also covers this move. And that's the best way you want to play Long Rapture, is that it covers 2 attacks. You have to time it really well for that to happen. Back to Shadow Covenant. And if you notice on his nameplate, there's another timer. I like to divide my timers when there's 2 I have to track. So with my bar timer, it's only Static Surge for healing. That was a really good grip right there. And on his bar, his nameplate, that's where I'm tracking my Mass Dispel. Yeah, and for that Mass Dispel, I wasn't stacked. Like you could say that was my bad even. But I wasn't selected with the dot, so I Mass Dispelled the group and then quickly gripped the Evoker out. I think that was a really good play. And this boss is pretty easy for us because most of the fight we are in execute range. Those double deaths are hella pro. So here comes our second Static Surge. Everyone is atoned. Harsh Discipline is ready. Just got PI. There it goes. And on these moves where the ground damage is large, you always want to play defensive. Let's see what I do first. I wall. And also I sacrificed my second Dark Reprimand. I held that proc for the move. And here's our second Rapture round. And that was just about perfect. So the best way you can play that is coat 5 shields on everyone. And then immediately after your 5th, the first tick of damage comes in and you just keep shielding. And that's what happened there. Okay, if you're wondering what the hell just happened, that was a misplay for me because I thought we could just full send on the boss. But he had way too much help for that. Barrier, obviously. And not a problem. So I am out of mana. That is exactly what you want on a boss like that. And this is a pretty fun little strat that I like. I'll sit over here and drink and let them play the water game. And then I just get gripped across. They said use stone. Got stone. I need to put that on my action bars or something. I don't know. But that is great because I have full mana. So we are back to fortified mobs. There was a really great fear bomb. So if you notice, I'm using that red bar right below my tune to track important spells for me to fear. The elemental focus here is a great one to fear bomb. And as a backup, you have Mass Dispel if it gets off. But that was my fear. There goes Shadow Fiend. Everyone is atoned. Harsh Discipline is ready. PI is out. Shadow Covenant. And also through here, I'm not sure if I was targeted by a frog or not, but I have a focus target weak aura. Is that what it's called? Yeah, so we have a lot of mobs that... Oh, fixate. A fixate weak aura. So a lot of mobs fixate right now, and those little frogs are one of them. And I have made a weak aura pack that helps you see which mobs are focused on you so that you can run. I think we'll see it in this next pack, and we'll see it on the frog boss as well. So we don't have the full group yet, but Shadow Covenant is such a short cooldown, there's no need to hold it. So I went ahead and ran my first one. Okay, we see some glowing mobs. That is the indicator that we're being targeted. And this is a fortified group, so you gotta be really careful here. I used my tendrils on the guy focused on me. And didn't necessarily need a rapture, but this is another one of those places where I'm just trying to help out my paints up. Looks like got good use out of it though. I think it's my rapture saved that Ret Paladin. And go ahead and drop another Shadow Covenant here. Again, it's such a short cooldown, it doesn't really matter if you throw it willy-nilly. And looking at my Harsh Discipline, I'm at a 0s. That is the only spooky thing about that play. And I believe this is a skip. Yeah, so even though there's some guys that are stealthed, they still take the Mind Soothe. And here, these guys are fortified. There's not much of a problem. All you want to do is run Shadow Covenant on cooldown, saving your Divine Star and your Rhapsody for when the ads spawn. Looks like I used a combat potion too. So I always try and play Star early because it has travel time. So I went to Shadow Covenant, Dark, Divine Star, and then just Holy Nova spam the whole time. So we don't have Shadow Covenant every round. That was a very late star. That's just how it worked out, though. So we should have dark spells for the next round. And you'll see with Bigwigs, I'm able to track when the ads spawn. So the rotation here is I will play my Dark Reprimand just to spread at least 2 dots. And then I Divine Star first for the travel time. And finally, I just spam Holy Nova. And really important here, the pack is about to end. I want my Harsh Discipline at a 3. And it's only a 2, so could be better, could be worse. This is non-tyrannical, so it's really not a problem. Our first spell we want as Shadow Covenant. So noticing my bar timers, this is the damage timer for Shadow Covenant. And we are playing a little back and forth kite game. And we can very clearly see with that Fixate Weak Aura which ones are on us. And for the second round of damage, we want to Rapture. I led with a Flash Heal into the Rapture to proc my damage reduction. And that was a really good Rapture because it covered 1 attack. And now the Lingering Shields will also cover the start of this attack. So I go into Shadow Covenant without Shadow Fiend, and that's because the Rapture was lingering. So it's a Shadow Covenant, no modifier. I am playing really aggressive here, making sure I get my Rhapsody on these ads. You don't need to, but I'm not gonna not attack them. Also star them. So we do have Shadow Fiend available. I think I play him this round. Yep, so I pre-Fiend. Everyone is atoned. Mind Blast first. Dark Reprimand proc second. Death third. Get that Rhapsody on him. Spamming a little bit of Holy Nova. And arguably, I trolled there. I had spells to control those guys, and this one is on me. I should have used my tendrils. Actually, looking at the cooldown, it was down. So a fear might have done it, or maybe if I kited better, it would have done it. Just how it goes sometimes, though. Another Shadow Covenant to cover this damage. And we are in execute range, so we are golden. Divine Star for the damage. A late Radiance. And sneak in for my Rhapsody. Okay, there was the tendrils. I actually pulled my weight for once. And as we're ending combat, I'm only thinking about getting my Harsh Discipline to a 3. And it is. So we're back to Fortified Trash. The biggest thing you can do here is focus all in on the dragon. That is why his nameplate is darkest. So I pre-atone. I precast Mass. Harsh Discipline is ready. I go straight into Schism Shadow Covenant on the dragon. And I think, if you look at the Ret Paladin right now, he's attacking the human. Bad. Well, actually, it's hard to tell. Okay, he's on the dragon now. And he goes back to the humans. So, when it comes to focus targets, the idea here is we don't want 2 deep chills. And we got 2. And the reason is because not everyone was focusing the dragon. It is a nuanced aspect of the game, but just pressing your buttons in the right order and getting high numbers isn't all that matters. You have to put your damage in the best places. And per pull, there's always a best target to attack. And for these, it's without a question the dragons. Never a bad idea to give your single shield to yourself as a small defensive. And to piggyback that idea, if you don't know which mob is best to target, usually it's the biggest one. It's not always, but like in this group, for example, the dragon is literally just bigger. And also noticing on his nameplate, I'm tracking his Icy Chill. Yeah, I'm sorry, his Deep Chill. That is a weak aura for enemy casts. Very, very useful as a healer, especially as a discipline healer. So he's about dead, but I put my Schism on again. Just trying to polish him off. Yeah. So, hard to say. I'm not sure if I pulled up the meters here, but if anyone wants to replay that and actually watch what the Paladin is doing, I don't think he's focused. Yeah, I said it in chat here finally. Focus the dragon. And it's because we got 2 Icy Chills. Both of those pulls. It's very easily avoidable if you just attack the right person. Yeah, and I really can't stress that enough. I don't think it's something everyone thinks about from my experience, but it is very possible to be attacking the wrong person. And yeah, it's just one of those topics that's not completely cut and dry. But here we have another dragon. Single shield on myself. Precast a Mass Dispel. Followed it with Instant Radiance. And I just made a small mistake. So I played my Vampiric Embrace on this dragon. It was not necessary. It would have been better to hold it for boss. Yeah, and see the Paladin is still attacking the humans here. It's just not good. So I also played a Paints up there, arguably maybe an error. Oh, and I played my Wall. These are all spells I would have rather have on the boss. But a lot of times in WoW, you don't get things as perfect as you would like. Ouch, Paladin took a lot of damage there. Yeah, I wish I was able to look at these meters in retrospect, but I don't think our Ret Paladin attacked the dragon really at all. It's almost like he just had no idea. Okay, so with this boss, we want to open with Shadow Covenant. I would have rather had Atonements out in group first. So here's our Shadow Covenant. And I think it's user's choice here, but I played PI on the Paladin for the damage. A lot of times I will play PI just for myself in Rapture, which is fine. And also on this boss, I've not talked about it. First, here goes my Rapture, focusing on myself and the DPS. Tank is low priority. But this is one fight where you want to turn party nameplates off. I kind of feel like they get in the way when you're trying to stack behind these ice cubes. But coming out of our first Rapture, our second Shadow Covenant is available. My Harsh Discipline was ready. Straight into Shadow Covenant, using Holy Nova and Star when we're stacked. We get the Green Atonement and the direct heal from the spell itself. Right after the move, I go into Barrier. And I'm very closely looking at my Shadow Covenant. It is only a couple seconds away. So in that last bit of time, I was making sure everyone was atoned. And this is our Shadow Fiend round with Shadow Covenant. I should cast my Nova. I don't know why I didn't there. So on this one, we have 7 seconds until Shadow Covenant. So I paint up myself and flash heal others for the binding heals. And that lines up perfectly with Shadow Covenant, and we're back on track. A lot of times, spells like Paints Up or Barrier, the way I look at it is if we have 10 seconds for Shadow Covenant, that is a perfect spot for Barrier, which is 10 seconds. Same with Paints Up. If we have 8 seconds to Shadow Covenant, yep. So I go into my second Rapture. Always better to Rapture with your dot out first. Looks like I had to break from shields. But I was just buying a little bit of time for Shadow Covenant. I sacrificed the latter half of my Rapture just to go back damaging. And that was the Frost Lady. Not a problem. 154k per second. And I'm Well, kind of So we are back to Fortified Trash. Oh, talents. And it's really important here, no matter what's going on, you have to focus on the incoming waves. Okay, so we have a dragon. It's really important to focus him, even with your puny healer damage. Open with Star. Open with Rhapsody. Here goes our Schism Shadow Covenant on the dragon. Focusing on all of my single target spells. And as my Shadow Covenant was ending, that is a great time to paint up the tank, because your heals will drop off. Precast a Mass Dispel. Still on the dragon here. And for this one, I go into Rapture. Rapture is really, really strong when you know how to use it. I think a lot of people who complain about Rapture aren't able to track their absorbs that well. And yeah, if you're wondering, I use Grid 2. It's the best for tracking absorbs. You can copy paste my profile. I used to use Voodoo, and Voodoo is great, but it's not great for absorbs. So I put my Schism on a humanoid, opening with my AoE spells. Yeah, really favoring AoE spells here. A lot of Nova. Really paying close attention to my star to cast it right as it comes available. Okay, and now we have a boss, essentially. So this is our mini boss. She is empowered by Fortified. This is a little spooky because we're getting attacked. And because I had no other spells except Barrier. So sometimes you just have to play what you got. I would rather open with Rapture, but we didn't have it. So I tracked the Inundate on her nameplate. And this is my Shadow Covenant round. The best defense for an Inundate is having full health. So I use Shadow Covenant in the interim to top everyone off. And now we have our other spells. So I walled on that first one because we only had green. And for this one we have defensives. We have our Rapture. So Rapture again can cover 2 attacks if you play it right. And it looks like I'm trying to delay my Shadow Covenant just a little bit to make sure it covers the next attack. And it do. Yeah, and it looks like that Shadow Covenant covered 2 attacks. Still hurt. And it's always a good idea to put a single shield on yourself, if no one else. It is a very reliable, small defensive. Alright, going into boss. The only thing we need to do here is pump Shadow Covenant. We need to play Schism, Shadow Covenant on pull. However, it is also a great idea to play Rapture here. So what I would do is Rapture before the boss even spawns. That way, as soon as he spawns, I can hit my Shadow Covenant. And the name of the game here is get 2 Shadow Covenants per phase. So here's my pre-Rapture. Schism, Shadow Covenant on pull. I think I shielded the tank there thinking I had Body and Soul, but I don't have that in this run. So for the second Tempest Fury, it should line up with your second Shadow Covenant. So the way it usually goes is your second Shadow Covenant gets cut off, but you want to get as much as you can. Yeah, so it was barely cut off. I might have lost 1 or 2 spell casts. But this is not a boss where people are going to die from healing. So I basically look at Shadow Covenant as my DPS button. And I'm just trying to kill the boss. I always play this little run back kind of conservatively. Especially with a rogue. I just wanted to let him do it. And I'll sit back. So we have a lot of fear opportunities here. Really important to watch their nameplates where we can see their Inundate timer. Also important to watch when they cast Inundate. Okay, looks like that was my fear. I think if you have only 1 pulled, maybe hold fear. I think fear's better if you have more than 1 pulled. So again with this phase, I want to end with a Harsh Discipline procced, and I want to coat the group with Rapture shields before the boss comes out. Because again, what we want to do here is as soon as boss comes up, attack him, Shadow Covenant. Okay, so here's boss, everyone is shielded, and straight into Shadow Covenant. And I think I also play Barrier on the next Tempest Fury. Not a bad idea either to wall on the Tempest Fury. I think I walled on that first one. Yeah, I Barrier the group of 3 instead of the group of 2. And our second Shadow Covenant recovers the health. And that one was also cut a little bit short. A little bit shorter than the first one, actually. Again with the rogue. Ooh. Watching for a opportunity to fear. Looks like the Evoker is in control. Didn't even need it. So we do have Shadow Fiend up. That is really important for the boss spawn. Harsh Discipline is good. Rapture Shields are out. Boss is out. Shadow Fiend. Schism, Shadow Covenant. And we just pump. Wall. In anticipation. Desperate Prayer, I mean. And I have PI. I'm off sync with the Paladin though somehow. Now, did he play his buttons on trash? I mean the ads? Okay, so I pre-atone for the Fury. And we didn't even need it. So there we go. That was a pretty good 25 Halls of Infusion. I think Halls is my most reviewed dungeon on my channel, but all the others were tyrannical. It is, I think it is my favorite dungeon this season, for sure. And this was a pretty good run overall, so I thought it would be nice to throw in a fortified version, give you guys a couple updates in WoW and in my IRL. So I hope you learned something from this. It's probably my last video before going into 10.2, which I am pretty excited for. I still plan on playing, but right now, again, my focus just has to be on preparing for my audition. So yeah, if anyone wouldn't mind crossing your fingers for me, I really, really would appreciate it. It is quite a daunting task going out there and putting myself on television again, but I think it's an opportunity I have to take. I can't really afford to pass it up. I felt like it was put in my way on purpose, and it's something I have to give it my best. And I've been back training for about 5 weeks, and things are going really, really good. But if you don't know this, one of the very real deterrents between me and my art is I had a pretty bad neck injury last year. So I'm trying to do my best in training, but also be mindful of my injuries. So yeah, cross your fingers for me. I will have more news shortly. I think it's one of those things where we will film this year and it will air next year. And all I can say is it's a similar competition type show to America's Got Talent, but not American. So, yep. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I'm still available for lessons on medify.gg. If you're interested, please go book a lesson. I think it's a really fun time and a great way to learn. And also, if you would like to support me as a person or my channel, I have enabled those super thanks right here through YouTube. So please throw me a tip if you've got anything from this video. So, yeah, thanks everyone again who has tuned in and supported me over the years. I will be back to my regular videos shortly. But until next time, Disc.